Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to a surprise episode that I am dropping. Originally, I wasn't going to start doing episodes until the middle of January as I'm in the middle of a rebirth, but I was like, I have literally done this podcast for 2 years straight. There is no way I can't just not drop one right before the end of the year. And I think this episode is going to be one of the most profound episodes that I put on this podcast, and it's really going to kick off the direction of what to expect for the new year, not only from me and my company, but also for you and your life and your trajectory. God has really humbled me in this last year. I went from making multiple six figures a year to still making six figures, but in a very different way this year. And why I'm going to talk about things to do with money. I'm going to talk about how God will humble you, the silence of your intuition. I'm going to talk about setting goals, New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to really just let this conversation flow today. It's going to be a shorter one, but it's going to be very savory. So I highly recommend that you maybe even listen to this once or more than once just to even take notes. There is going to be so many golden nuggets for you to take away from this episode, and it's going to be very honest and real and vulnerable and optimistic. So buckle up. Buckle up. Before we get into this episode, I really just actually want to pause and thank you. Thank you for being someone who tunes in every week, even if you have just found this recently. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would not have over 23,000 downloads if it wasn't for you. I would not have the motivation to keep doing this if it wasn't for you. I would not put out the content or be motivated to continue in my psychological studies if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't have gone through the transition that I have gone through this year if it wasn't for you. And today, what I hope to share with you is going to be something that really makes you think and reflect about your life, about this next year, about what you're willing to actually do to get to where you want to be, and what the power of that surrender looks like in that journey. And we're going to talk about some deceptive things that are often shared that are not helpful when it comes to New Age spirituality, because that's what I freaking love jamming on is New Age deception and how it is just so narcissistic and crippling and entrapping. And it really doesn't serve people at all. And it just makes me so excited to see more and more of it being revealed to me as I continue to dive more and more into God and His Word. So here we go. I'll go back to what I was referencing before my thank you to you. Genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So up until the beginning of 2022, I was making multiple six figures doing readings and intuition coaching and mediumship and developing programs for spiritual entrepreneurs to get trained and to start their own spiritual practice. And I am so grateful that I went down that road for 4 years, because it not only helped me to have a deeper understanding and conviction with God and Jesus, but it also helped me to really open my eyes to life, to myself, to my relationships, to communication, and really understand the consciousness that exists within every single interaction. It also allowed me to be able to deeply understand my own limitations. It also gave me a deeper understanding into driving factors behind other people's lives and being able to read into my clients' energies when they're telling me about how they're overwhelmed and sick and tired of their husband always leaving the dishes in the sink or throwing their clothes in front of the laundry basket and not doing the things that they need them to, or, being frustrated with them working out of town. Really being able to read into that energy and understand what's underneath that, so that as I help them with behavioral trainings and modalities to pull out the actual story, which never has anything to do with what you initially think and has everything to do all the time with your past, helping them to pull those stories out of them for self-awareness, it has been absolutely life-changing. Now, this year, if you've been following along with much of my story, I went through this massive awakening. I actually started this awakening in 2021 by the end of the summer, and had a lot of fear surrounding how people were going to take this, what people were going to think about me. I had spent all this time, building this reputation on being this spiritual medium and intuition master coach and all these things. And all of a sudden, I'm in a sense denouncing my work to Jesus, to the Bible. And that really threw a lot of people for a loop. And for obvious reasons, a lot of people invested a lot of money into me and my business to teach them certain things. And though I don't necessarily denounce that work because it taught me so much and I am so undeniably grateful for it, I realized in the continued pursuit of understanding and wanting to know how to serve people in a better way that wasn't the best way. And in many cases, there was refunds that were granted out of my own pocket, because if you're a small business owner, you understand that you don't necessarily have some kind of massive overflow that is just like always existing in your account. And my intention was to remain as reputably integral as possible, because since the very beginning of everything, I've always preached about ethics and integrity. And I am not here to scam people. When I did readings, it was very genuine. I asked for zero information. I didn't need your birthday. I didn't need where you were born. I didn't need your favorite numbers. I didn't even need a last name. I just needed your first name and just you interacting with me. I didn't need to go through your social media. I didn't need to learn if you had children or scroll through your Facebooks. I would read your energy with zero information. And that's exactly how I taught my students how to do it. And that absolutely changed my life. I am so, so grateful that I went through that process, because when it became very clear to me that something was wrong. So as I'm studying psychology and mental awareness and behavioral patterns and emotional therapies, I'm starting to really pick up on a lot of these narcissistic, entrapping, contradictory teachings and verbiage that is being used within New Age spirituality. So that was the first kicker for me. I would also recognize within my clients how they would still continue to be disconnected even after doing all the things, doing the meditations, building the routines, working through the stories of their past, but still not being able to have that confidence. And I am a coach who is continuously dedicated to learning and growing. Like, if there is a problem that comes to my attention, I am going to find a way to solve it. I'm going to find a way to not only solve it because it's going to be something that I need to solve for myself, but a way to teach it because I know somebody else is going to deal with it as well. And as I continued to study, I started to see things like these blanket approaches like meditation. Meditation is helpful if you understand your energy. Meditation is not helpful if you are all over the place, high anxiety, have ADHD symptoms or ADHD or ADD, you are overwhelmed and stressed about everything in your life. You're constantly focused on not having the laundry done, but here you are sitting on the floor. Meditation actually isn't helpful if that is you, if you struggle with silence. Not only is that an opportunity for awareness of survivalistic tendencies, but it also gives you insight to maybe if you have a coach who is tailoring things to you, that movement is going to be so much more beneficial because all that anxiety gets to be channeled through movement and all that stress gets to be channeled through movement. And now you get to start attaching behaviors and habits to that movement that are going to be way more conducive of you and your life and your goals and where you're wanting to go. You see, every single person is different. And so I'm seeing a lot of spiritualists who are blanketing these approaches, or they're giving people information. So this was another thing with psychic readings that really brought me to Jesus, was I would do readings for people and I would start talking about based on, so if you go to my Instagram, there's 4 reels that are out and it's unmasking your stress, and you can look at it, and it's the 3 levels of reading energy. So the first level is your surface level, and this is your initial trigger. So someone would come to me and they're stressed about their husband working out of town, not doing all these things, laundry, dishes, and sinks, so on and so forth. That's the trigger. And then in the reading, I would pick up on this, and I don't ask questions when I would do readings. I would just say, okay, I'm going to tap in. I'm going to just start talking. I'm going to start at a surface level, and then we're going to go deeper as we go. And then if they agreed, we'd continue on with the reading. And so I'd pick up on this, and then I'd pick up on what personal area this is actually affecting. And sometimes it was, I feel like a lot of the stress and overwhelm is actually coming from lack of security within finances, that you feel very depleted because there's never enough, or even if there is enough, you're constantly feeling like you're catching up. And even if there is enough in the bank and you don't have to catch up, you're still feeling this mentality, this emotional burden that you carried from the way that your father or your mother dealt with money as you were growing up, whether it was a lack of, or they had those same types of behaviors or tendencies, or it's and maybe sometimes it was relationships. So it's like, I feel like it's a lack of security within relationships. It's the feeling of not being seen or validated. Like when you're talking, you're just not getting that support. You're not being heard. Nobody's listening to you. And I feel like it stems back from your childhood, when you were a child, and, there was things that you needed, and you always felt like you were just put in a corner for talking too loud, or, there was a lot of abuse in your environment. And people would sit there awestruck. They're like, how the F do you know this? And it's like, because energy is energy. We are all connected. And that's something that I think from a biblical standpoint, it's not really acknowledged. So that's what's so attractive to people who turn away from the Bible, is the freedom and the openness. But then biblically, there's a reason why. It's because if you have no self-control and you have no boundaries and you don't have a very good level of discernment or understanding of discernment, you can get very much encapsulated into all things New Age spirituality very easily, because it's this promissory of law of attraction: attract your desires, live the best life that you want for you, and it's all about you. It's like, that's literally the foundation of narcissistic behavior. So I'm starting to realize these things, and what I'm realizing most is that as I'm getting into these soul levels of people and where their issues are stemming into childhood, is that there's not enough time in 60 or 90 minutes to actually support my clients in being able to unravel these things. So my clients are constantly feeling like they need to come back for more sessions, or they need to do something else, because they're not really able to get into the meat and the nitty gritty of what we're unearthing. And even though I'm providing them with tools like, hey, here's some homework tailored to what we talked about today. Here's a couple videos on YouTube I want you to watch as references to just really dig into this. Hey, here, I'm going to give you access to this program for 30 days. I highly recommend that you take the time to look at it. Here's a few podcast episodes that I want you to reference based on what we talked about today. So I'm always leaving my clients with things. But when you unearth something, especially traumatic, oftentimes it's easier to try and run from it like you have, versus deal with it. The only problem is, now that you're aware of it, you start to see it in real time, how it's connecting to and unraveling in your life. So now that we talked about, let's call her Susan's financial insecurities based off of her parents, right? Now every time she goes to pay a bill and she feels that anxiety, she realizes, oh, I'm not anxious for paying this bill. I have the money for it. I'm anxious because of how my parents approached it. Oh, when I go to swipe my card to buy groceries and I have this strange feeling like there's not enough in my account, even though I know I just got paid, it's stemming from my childhood. So there's never actual rectification. And so for those people who, let's say Susan, who's going into her daily life and she's like, holy shit, this is all over the place. This is like a slaughterhouse. What do I do with this? And maybe she is that willing person. So she listens to the references that I gave her. She does the homework that I gave her. She comes back to my DMs. She says, hey, this is what I realized. This is what I did. This is what came up. This is amazing. What do I do with this? Now, in New Age spirituality, they say, well, now you need an energy healer. Well, fucking false. No, you don't. Nobody can actually heal your energy. Healer is always limited to their own perception. So it's never actually going to be what you need, let alone you have to be accountable for yourself. So that's in your faith. That's in how you treat your body. So your physical health, your dietary health. And that's a massive one that I learned about this year, is that oftentimes anxiety and stress, ADHD, ADD, autoimmune issues, gut, but colon, bowel issues, all of these things are related to mental health, brain, cognitive functioning, all of it, your gut health. And that's something that's never addressed within New Age spiritualists, is they'll go, let's do a chakra healing. It's like that chakra healing isn't going to magically balance that person's gut system that's been trashed, whether it be from stress, from antibiotics, from trauma, from poor eating, lack of exercise, any one of those combinations, right? Energy healing is not going to actually help that person. And so I started to realize all these things. I started to, through continued study, through, observing my patients, through overlooking just like all these observations about what's out there and what's taking place and what people are coming to me like saying like, oh, I spent $10,000 for this cure because somebody told me that I had a curse over my ancestral line. It's like insane what takes place. But again, that's where I'm talking about. If you don't have that level of discernment going into spirituality, you're going to get swept into it so quickly. Past life healing is something that's talked about often. Human design is something that is talked about often. And both of those are very entrapping. Past lives, because you don't actually live this life. So what is the genuine purpose? I can't conceptualize what the genuine purpose is of healing a past life when you're wanting to be present in your life now, but you're so fixated on what's happened in past lives to better understand you today, but you're here today, not even understanding today because you're looking into your past. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Shadow work, another big one that is very entrapping, deceptive, and opens you up to demonic possession and intervention. It's like there's so many things. And as I continued to seek the root of all, God. It's like, okay, well, where is God? Well, God is in the Bible. And what is God's word? Well, this is God's word. And people study it for their entire life and they still can't even conceptualize the entirety of the Bible, which is a phenomenon in of itself. But you look at that and there is a very clear direction about what God expects of us in our lives. And because we don't like to be uncomfortable, and we don't like to be challenged based on our perceptions, oftentimes it's a survivalistic instinct. When we are challenged, we got to shut it down, right? You can tell a person's level of healing based on their adaptability, and not an adaptability to conform to someone else or something else, but an adaptability to being open to processing new information. That doesn't mean you take it on and you take it as your own, but your openness to listen, your openness to be able to say, that's really interesting. I'm going to, maybe take some time to look into that. Or, hey, you know what? I don't think that I'm ready for this, or I'm just not available for that right now. But, you bring it to my attention again later on and we'll see where I'm at. Like your willingness to communicate openly and honestly and to really process information, not just be like, oh yeah, the Bible says this. It's like, or, oh yeah, my spiritual coach said this. It's like, okay, but what does that mean to you? Now, see, again, discernment. We can get into the weeds here, and I'm kind of going in the weeds myself. But you can really get lost in a lot of these things if you don't have a deep level of foundational faith. Okay, and what I mean by that is in terms of like self-desires is you're not supposed to take the things in the Bible literally. And so yes, it is open for interpretation, but there is a lot of things in the Bible that are very literal that is asked of us in terms of, I don't know the exact one, but it talks about how going to mediums and psychics is all about just working with demons. And when I read this, I could have sat there and been like, well, I see how much this helps people. It provides for my family. It's really great. It's so much fun. I absolutely love it. I'm incredibly good at it. So I'm just going to interpret this as like, just don't connect to the demons, right? And that was something that I struggled with. But the truth is that God literally says, don't do this. And here I am trying to justify as if I know better than God. And so though it is incredibly fun and I'm really freaking good at it, I took the time to then observe. Okay, so if God says don't do this, let's look at why. Why would he say this? So let's go to our clients and our patients' notes and let's look at what they're dealing with time and time again, week after week. And that's where I continued to dive into psychology, because it was like, one, there has to be a science-based understanding, not only for the client to walk away with knowing how they are, who they are, and how to process, but then also just understanding their functionality. And then within that, it's like, what are tangible tools that they can use that help them to not need all this energy healing work? Your energy is going to heal because of the people you surround yourself with, the hard conversations you're willing to have, the actions that you take, the courage that you execute on, and the consistency that you hold within your life. And so God this year really slowed me down to help me to extract all of this out of what I was doing, where I was going, who I wanted to serve. And he really showed me that I can trust him. I can lean on him. I can absolutely not have a freaking clue what I'm going to do tomorrow or in 5 months or 6 years. And I will be okay. Like the 3 months leading up to pregnancy, giving birth, I pulled back so much in what I do and how I show up and how I operate. I felt so overwhelmed and confused about who I was going to serve, how I was going to serve them, how that was in the best alignment for God's purpose. And when I got into pregnancy, when I got into postpartum, I had let go of everything. My one-on-one clients had all perfectly finished up their contracts right around that time. My group programs were all finished. A lot of my reoccurring revenue started to finish up. I closed down the membership because I knew that God needed me to be silent. And if I wasn't willing to actually execute on having the faith that I was preaching, and I wasn't willing to stop what I was doing to be able to evaluate everything, that I would never know what he needed of me, what this world needed of me based on his plan for me. And I thought that was so fascinating as I got into that phase of no longer knowing what I was going to do. Being in postpartum with Noah, he's almost 3 months old already, which is so crazy. But now going into this new year, because I've given myself that time, because I trusted and had faith, God dropped just over 10K into my account of money that I was not expecting. It was like a child tax benefit that the government had somehow held for 2 years. And I just so happened to get it right before I gave birth. Like, what? And there was no notice of this. There's no sign of this. I had no knowledge that this was coming my way. And there it was. And God showed up and gave Phil just the perfect amount of work to be able to provide financially so we could utilize that 10K over time. He granted access to little things that I was doing that brought in a little bit of extra money. But my focus wasn't even money anymore. My focus wasn't even money. My focus was in the curiosity of faith. And this also led into understanding or wanting to better understand determination, the willingness. There's this whole concept around hustle culture and working that if it doesn't feel good, well, it's not for you. And that's a big teaching in spirituality is if it doesn't feel good, it's not for you. It's like, do you know how many things don't feel good that you have to do if you actually want to change your life? Like the person who wants to lose 100 pounds, it is not going to feel good exercising for the next 6 to 12 months. Don't worry, Noah's okay. He just has these big freakouts if you can hear him in the background, literally right before he's about to go to sleep. There's nothing we can do. It's a process of just 10 minutes of bouncing him and patting him on the back and singing to him, and then he just eventually passes out. So if you hear the screaming baby, we've got this covered. I promise I'm not neglecting my child just to go on a podcast episode. Okay, so it really led me into this curiosity. And so in New Age spirituality, here we go. There's my brain reconnected. It often talks about doing things that feel good. So you want to lose 100 pounds. It's not going to feel good to build in the habit of getting up early or later at night or making sure that you get your workouts in every day. It's not going to feel good when your body goes through a sugar detox or gluten detox or dairy intolerance. What is it? I don't remember. But when your body's going through detoxes, right? It's not going to feel good, but you do it not because it feels good. You do it because of where you're trying to go. And this whole idea around canceling, hustling, or working hard, it's like That in of itself is so deceptive, because anyone who's gotten anywhere in their life, think about you. If you've ever wanted to run a marathon, if you ever wanted to pay off debt, if you ever wanted to get a new job, if you ever wanted to be a mom, you got to birth a human through your vagina, or if you get a C-section, like that doesn't feel good by any means at all. Like not even close. But the transformation, the destination, the outcome is worth every second of it, right? And you have to start thinking of where you want to go and setting your goals like this, with this framework. This year, I have some really big goals: to pay off 40K in debt, to hire a mentor that costs more than my rent a month, to be able to provide and to acquire certain things in my life. And in order to do that, not only am I absolutely continuing my coaching practice, but I'm picking up a day job because I want the financial security and availability to ensure that these things can happen, versus sitting back with my nervous system flared up like, I just don't know, and I'm going to just hope, and I'm going to bet. Like I've done that for many years, and I'm not available for that anymore. So strategically, this is going to make so much more sense. Am I pumped about going back to a day job? Not necessarily, but not for the reasons of what you might think. I do not like working within the confines of someone else telling me when I can clock in and out, which is the biggest struggle for me. It always has been. But everything else, like that's going to be the most uncomfortable part of what I'm about to do, which makes me really excited, because if that's the thing my mind is so fixated on, well, that's easy. That is so easy to deal with. I show up and I clock out. Right? Like it doesn't actually even require any effort. My mind's just trying to fixate on something negative because there's something underneath that wants addressing. And so for me, a part of that is guilt and shame that I'm even considering a day job, right? Like it's so easy for people who build a platform, who create a container, who do something big in their lives, to go back to what seems like what they went away from, to openly say like, hey, look it, I'm doing this. And, it's not necessarily what I wanted or thought I would be or where I would be at this point, but I have these big goals and I'm willing to do what it takes. My word for this year is work and coherence, meaning that in everything that I do, in everything that I say, in everything that I strive for, there is going to be a reinforced habit. There is going to be support. There is absolutely going to be some greater intention that has everything to do with serving God. And there is going to be this opportunity for me to continue to stay curious about myself and my life and opportunity and possibility. I had to break and go feed Noah. When in doubt, the booby always works. He always needs his booby. It'll be really interesting to see how Phil handles it when I'm at work during the day, because usually around 12 and around this time is kind of his like big freak out moments, and literally the only thing that ties him over, even if he's full, is his booby. So we're gonna see. It's I'm kind of like changing gears here, because even though I went back and listened to what I was talking about before, I feel like that could really end the segment in that particular area. We're going to talk about going into your New Year's goals now, and we're going to talk about how you can really just evaluate, what you're willing to do to make what you want happen. I was sitting in prayer one day and I was just asking God for guidance. It's like, hey, I don't know what you want me to do here. Like, I stopped doing readings. I stopped doing mediumship. I'm so grateful for all the ways that you have provided for us and continue to provide for us. And, in one sense, maybe it makes sense for Phil to go back to work, but it doesn't, because he doesn't have the energy every day that he would need to. He has memory issues. There's cognitive delays. Like sometimes he just needs to have a nap in the middle of the day, and that all comes with the territory of a heart disease. Like that doesn't mean that he has other problems, but there's just some problems that he has that haven't healed yet or aren't healable, though I do believe everything is healable, just based on where he's at in his life right now and having a congenital heart condition. Anyway, so for him, it doesn't make sense. And plus, what he would get paid to go back to work also doesn't make sense whatsoever, because what he would have to do is work at like a Walmart or a home hardware, which I'm not knocking those jobs, but for the lifestyle we live and his medication alone, like we need something that is just pays a lot more. Anyways, so I landed this opportunity to go and work for a bank. So that also gets us benefits. And so I'm sitting in prayer and I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't understand. I stopped doing readings. I stopped doing this. I'm, really giving my life over to you. And not because I expect anything. Like, let me make that very clear. I'm not praying to God for this clarity because I did something for him. Like, I did you a favor. I scratched your back. You scratched my back. Like, that wasn't the intention of this prayer. It was an understanding. It was, what is even my next step? Like, where do you want me to go from here? And all I heard was, why do you continue to survive? And I sat with that and I was like, man, I'm so glad I studied intuition for as long as I did, because I knew when this clairaudient message came in, why do you continue to survive? That in this prayer it was from God, and that I can look to the scriptures and I can find a multitude of examples where God asks us to not just survive. Yes, there is also scriptures where he says to give everything that you have away and just to live vicariously through Jesus, to do as he did and to live God's word and breathe it. But there's also many instances where it talks about living a really bountiful life, a very fruitful life. And so I'm thinking about this, and when you have a message like this come through, it's not just like, why are you just trying to survive? It's like emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. And I look at this and I'm like, that is so interesting. And so now I start evaluating, what different areas or aspects of my life am I surviving in? Well, I'm surviving through finances. I'm surviving through my emotions. I'm surviving through my routines. I'm surviving through even some of my relationships came to a close this year, just because, not because they're bad people or I'm better or I'm worse and they're better. It's because our lives are not conducive of where I want to go and what I feel like I need and just where they're at in their journey. And everyone has their own journey, and I totally understand that. But my journey for supporting them is no longer what it needs to be. And so it's up to them to now do their own work. And so at this point, I'd just be enabling just victim mentality. And like, I can't stand that. I just can't stand that stuff. That's why when my clients come into my containers, I'm like, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable to this. You're going to have your breakdowns, you're going to have your breakthroughs, but there's going to be times where you want to be a victim to the things that are coming up. And I'm not going to allow you to do that. And so as long as you consent to this and you sign this contract, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Not because I'm going to guilt you into it or shame you into it, but I'm going to reflect you through it, which is always so powerful. So I'm thinking about this, and God is just continuing to show me opportunities of having faith and continuing to see, just to see. So not only is this message of surviving coming through, but then as I continue to pray over the next few weeks, I just keep getting shown my mind's eye. And I'm just shown to see, just look, just watch, just observe. And I'm observing my life, and I'm observing my clients, and I'm observing this newborn chapter, and I'm observing conversations with people who are trying to get around God's word. And I'm observing their behaviors and their messaging and just everything about what they do. And I'm realizing that what God's asking me to do is to go back to my initial intention at the beginning of what was the beginning of 2022 and come back to serving spiritual entrepreneurs and doing it in a way where not only am I training them in psychoanalytics, which is the foundation of the work that I do, whether I take you on as a private coach or an individual personal life client or as a spiritual entrepreneur. I teach you psychoanalytics, which is the behaviors, emotions, and mentality behind what you're doing, where you are, and where you're going. But then doing it inclined with Jesus, doing it inclined with God. And I'm realizing when I tried to do this in the middle of the year that I was approaching it from a very forceful way, mostly because I was in shock. I was in shock that I wish I would have known about Jesus in the way that I know now growing up. Like, I wish that was a foundation of my life. And I think that that's really something interesting to share with you, because oftentimes people are like, well, why would I turn to God? It's enslavement. It's not more freeing. Now you have to be upheld by these rules. There's these 10 commandments. I don't just get whatever I want. Law of attraction doesn't necessarily exist. It's like, right, but you uphold to not speeding because you're going to get a ticket. You uphold to not robbing a bank because you're going to go to jail. You uphold not murdering someone that you absolutely despise and hate, whether it's for justful reasons or not, because you could get put to death. I mean, we don't have that in Canada anymore, but that used to be the sentence. So it's like you uphold yourselves by all these physical laws. But when it comes to spiritual laws, when it comes to like actual self-improvement, you want to stray away from that. You don't want rules. You don't want boundaries. It's like, we need boundaries. Our brain literally needs boundaries. Our brain needs direction. Otherwise it goes astray. Otherwise it's overwhelmed constantly. It's over or under stimulated because it doesn't have anything to do. That's why setting goals is so important. That's why the determination to work hard, to have consistency, to build better habits is so important, because our brain not only needs that to function, but then there's going to be times where we don't want to do it. We don't want to lose the weight. We don't want to follow through with the 9-to-5 rules. We don't want to do something that has to do with what we're striving for. And so faith comes in, prayer comes in, to have the strength to understand the value and the direction of why we're going in the direction that we're going, and to be willing to surrender. Like, I started everything that I did, and God literally humbled me at my feet and took away everything or it didn't even take it away. He let me take it away from myself to show me that there was a better way. And I have this really big desire to support spiritual entrepreneurs for two main reasons. One, because a lot of them are undertrained in terms of they've gone through a healing journey. They've taken the tools that their healer, their teacher taught to them, and then they turn around and they teach it to somebody else. That does not give you any sort of understanding of how to actually hold space for somebody else. If you're working with someone with a closed perspective, an open perspective, there's a variance in between that, and they are struggling with something in their life, a trauma's coming up, and you have no idea how to coax someone through a very heavy, dense, and emotional experience, even psychological experience, you're going to actually perpetuate more problems for that person. And so that's always been something that I have always seen, observed, and really spoken out to and upheld in the standards of what I teach, is making sure that my clients, when they're trained in a modality, when they're trained in behavioral analytics, when they're trained in the drop-through method, that you understand functionality, you understand perception. There's going to be a lot more really amazing trainings coming into the Align and Ascend Mastermind in the new year. Actually, they're all going to open up in February. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to open up the program again in February, but for the current students, there's going to be a lot of really powerful trainings that get dropped in there. And then going forward in the new year, my main predominant focus is going to be tailoring my content to improving people's lives, like how you can improve other people's lives. And for me, that really becomes so vital, because I want to help people who help people. Think about it this way. You can help one person change their lives, and that's incredible. And I don't take that for granted, and I think it's an absolute amazing thing. But I can help someone who is going out to help 5 other people change their lives. And the ripple effect of that is so much more profound. Now, that's not to say still helping one person with their life isn't profound, isn't important, isn't of the utmost value, because it is. Once upon a time, somebody helped me through that too. And I am so undoubtedly grateful for that. But unless it's through a one-on-one container, my focus with my clients in their personal success and healing work is going to be through the Intuition Immersion program. Now, this is an 8-week program that is open all the time for you to enroll in if you're on a self-discovery journey. And it takes you through all the understandings, from your faithful foundation to processing your emotions, processing your habits and your mindset, processing your physical understanding. And in one-on-one containers, this is also going to look like a minimum of a 8-month commitment, because if it's not just specifically with me, it's with me and Dr. Jacques Moser. So him and I have partnered up for one-on-one personal life and success coaching and healing. He is going to take on all the body components, and I am going to take on all the mindset, emotion, behavior, and spiritual components of supporting you and transforming your life. You can still get really great success and transformation from what I can support you with. But undoubtedly, I have seen that when it comes to changing your life, you have to incorporate the body health. So whether that's something that you take on for yourself afterwards, or you go through the process doing it with him and I working together with you, it is a minimum of an 8-month commitment because he has an 8-month protocol that he walks you through. And then so my mindset, emotional, spiritual, and behavioral work works alongside that as well. Yes, we can do some really high intensity focused things in 4 months, but 8 months I have found is the absolute sweet spot. It is where you can truly not only learn everything, but unravel and integrate into that next level of you that you truly desire to be, whether it's a less anxious mom, whether it's a high achieving career woman, whether it's a more present wife, whether it's someone who just lives in the joy of the moments of everything that takes place, the ups and the downs, the lefts and the rights, striving for more courage, confidence, having more of a foundational relationship with Jesus Christ. Like, it's just so beautiful. And I really find that 8 months is a perfect time frame. So that is going to be the individual personalized work that we do. If you are on a self-healing journey this year, if you are not willing to settle for less, if you are no longer willing to just conform to whatever the government says, and you want to build that life that you truly desire, and you're really, really, really willing to fucking work for it, then let's go. Let's link arms and let's help you thrive, not only this year, but every year after, because you will have the tools, the understanding, the knowledge, the insight, and the plan to execute on. And that is the focus. Now, aside from personalized work, almost everything, including the podcast, is very much going to be driven towards entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, all things uncovering new age deception, striving for more in your life, really taking the chances, the ins and outs of entrepreneur life. I really love the entrepreneur journey. It has taught me more about anything in my life than truly anything. Honestly, even motherhood. Like, I am a better mother because of entrepreneurship, because I'm willing to build something, to understand community, to understand psychology, to understand people, to support people, to hold space for people, to figure things out. Like, my resourcefulness, my willingness, like, that is motherhood on steroids. The only difference is you're not chasing a toddler around, but then apply all those same principles and understandings to entrepreneurship, and it's like, it's literally the same thing. And it's such a beautiful journey. And I think that it is something that a lot more people are going to be turning to for the reasons of the freedom it provides, not necessarily the less work. I know there's going to be a lot of people marketing work 1 day a week for 3 hours and make $1 million. And that shit isn't fucking true, okay? Let me just be the one to stamp my foot on the ground, to raise my hand to the sky and say that is not true. The people who do that literally are living off of reoccurring revenue. And the only reason that they are living off reoccurring revenue is because they've spent probably 5 to 10 years building something massive. It's either run by ads, which requires a lot of money behind it, or they're affiliate marketing. So they're just sharing products and getting paid for it. Okay, like nobody, even the billionaires, don't work 1 day a week for 3 hours. Okay, so putting it into perspective, these are a lot of the things we're going to talk about, because I really do believe that you need to be an entrepreneur in some sense of your life. Whether it is you have your day job or you have your night job and you are still needing a secondary, even a third source of income. There is no better way than to do it helping other people, but there is so many other ways that you can become an entrepreneur and make money in this world nowadays. I mean, you can open an OnlyFans account and sell your body online, but like understand that's very much of the devil, right? Like God never asks you in the Bible to sell your body for money. Literally ever, never is that in there ever. So just know when you're doing these things, there's darkness, there is demons attached to it. Just saying. You might not like that. However, it doesn't make it not the truth. So we're just going to go with that. But like I said, you can make respectable additional income streams. And in this day and age, it's something you absolutely need. I learned that very much in real time this year when I continued to pull back. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a backup plan. Thankfully, God pulled through and, gave Phil the work that we needed, gave us this incredible deposit, gave us the little bits of work that I was available for, and it just made everything so effortless in most cases. One of the things that going into this new year, I'm going to talk about goals for a second here. I have 5 companies that I'm going to be hiring throughout this year. A one-on-one mentor that I talked about earlier for business building and sales, a branding specialist, a podcast company to deal with all things my podcast. I am hiring on Doc Jacques Moser. So the very one that I am teaming up with to support you, I am hiring him for myself, literally a testament to just his work, his company, his testing, his support. It is everything you need and more. And then the 5th one is I have joined workout community. It's a 23-minute HIIT workout a day. It's called the Ladies Edge. I'm not sponsored to share them with you. I just love Michelle Bishop and everything that she has created, and her journey over the last 10 years. It actually goes back even further because she used to be in fitness competitions, and I've been following her since probably like 2012. But anyways, and that is going to be the company that helps me with all things workout and exercise. So my body got absolutely trashed from pregnancy. My pelvic floor, there's zero strength. Like I actually don't trust my body. Like that's how disconnected my body is and myself right now is I don't trust my body to hold myself up. Like I'll get out of a car and if I slip even just a little bit and my leg like flies out to the side, or in the shower, if there's like some conditioner on the ground and my leg slides out like even like 2 inches, it hurts so bad. And I immediately almost fall to the ground because I can't catch myself. So if you want any indication of like how bad of a shape I am in physically with just like my bone structures and my joints and my muscles, there you have it. So I have all this support that I'm bringing into my life this year, and I am willing to work so hard at achieving the things that I want and to getting to where I want to go and building a platform 10 times the size of the one that I have to support spiritual entrepreneurs in learning how to properly support the transformation of their clients' lives. So this is something that is going to require a lot of work. So for my spiritual entrepreneurs that I've been teaching over the last couple of years that have just been starting out their business, I'm in it with you right now. And what's so great is I get to use my own references that I give to you to literally do what I'm going to create today. Oh, there's actually a 6th company. It's a systems company. So it's a company that comes in and they teach me how to build out systems for everything in my business so that it can be duplicatable. So whether that's products that I can add into the aligness and mastermind, whether that's one-off sales or shares that I can create, essentially it's learning how to build a business that I can step out of for weekends or week vacations and not have to always be the face of everything that everyone connects to. So there is a 6th company that's coming on to support me on this. And these aren't by any means like a couple $100. Like the systems company is $22,500. The one-on-one mentorship with the business and sales coach is $1,200 US a month. The The health support with Dr. Jacques Moser is $900 a month, not including private testing. And I watched Phil go through private testing, and it is worth every freaking penny. We spent almost $15,000 on Phil for his private heart treatments and all of his testing and supplements and everything like that. And it was worth every single dollar. And I will do it all over again for myself. The workout program is $300 and something US a year. What was the other one? No, I think I've named them all. Yep. So like this stuff is money. This is on top of daily expenses, business expenses, personal expenses, on top of debt repayment, investments that we're going to be building up this year as well. So like when I say, are you willing to truly do what it takes to get to where you want to be? These are the things that I'm talking about. Getting a day job, getting an extra job, starting a side hustle to provide that additional income. If your thing this year, your focus is more authenticity, is more about yourself, your healing, what are you doing to support yourself in that? Is it a coach? Is it private testing? If you're ever going to do anything with your body, as much as I love taking supplements and products that are generally good for people, I always encourage everyone to go through private testing first, because otherwise you could just be taking things that is like when you take too much vitamin B12, you end up just peeing out the majority of it and your pee's neon because your body just absorbed what it can take on. Or if you don't have the appropriate supplements that your body specifically needs to absorb and digest specific vitamins and supplements that you're taking, then you actually don't absorb any of it. And then it just becomes a huge waste of money. So I'm affiliating with the mental wellness company right now, and a lot of their products and supplements are great for helping me with focus and energy and repairing my gut health. But I do know very truthfully that when I go through private testing, that I will very likely need different, if not more, supplements to support me with all those things as well. So it's like there's such a value in doing things the right way and actually being willing to work towards it. No, it's not easy to get up at 6 a.m., but it helps give you that extra hour before the kids get up, or it's easier to get up at 5 a.m. It gives you the extra couple hours before the kids get up. It's not easy to work out in the evening when you've had a long day, but it pays off quite a lot in 6 months when you've built in that habit and you maybe switch it from the evenings to the mornings. It pays off so much when you need to have those hard conversations with people, when you learn about reading energy, reading your own energy, moving through the own depths of your own subconscious, because when somebody judges you or someone projects onto you or someone expects something of you that's not in alignment with you, you can simply say, hey, look it, I love that for you, or I appreciate what you're saying, but it's not for me. So I'm going to leave that with you. Like, it just helps you in so many ways, but you have to be willing to do the work, right? You have to be willing to show up and go through the shit and put yourself through shit sometimes to get to the transformation. And if that transformation, if that goal is something that you don't really want to attain, like you're not really willing to work for what is required to get you to there, then take it off the list. Do yourself a favor and just take it off the list, because it's something that you don't actually want. No one person is going to convince you of getting to where you want to be other than you. You have to convince yourself. And there is going to be so much bombardment of selling all the things. And if you don't get clear on what you want your goals to look like, your daily habits to look like now, you're likely going to spend this entire year getting swayed into so many different products and courses and programs and this and that and clothes and houses and decor and all this stuff that you're going to end up at the end of 2023 overwhelmed, fucking defeated, and not knowing what to do with your life. So I hope this episode really gives you insight into just how maybe God is trying to surrender you or humble you right now. Maybe to your level of commitment or determination to the goals that you have or have not even thought about setting yet. Taking time to reflect on this year has been absolutely amazing. Though I let essentially everything go and created a different direction for myself, I am so grateful for all the ups and downs, the stress, the hardship, the anxiety, the joy, the welcoming of my new son, the family experiences that we've gotten to have, the camping trips we got to take over the summer, the New Year's resolutions that I set last year that I didn't even remotely follow through with, other than in January, Phil asked me, what do you want for your birthday, which is in February, and I said a baby, and I found out I was pregnant just a couple weeks before my birthday. So it's like, that was the only one I went into the new year setting and achieved. Actually, that's not true. I did want to have a lot more clarity around the platform that I'm going to be building and the empire that I'm going to be building. And I absolutely got that, but it did not come easy. And it came with a lot of stress and overwhelm, mostly because I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to surrender to it. And when I finally did, like literally, this pregnancy got me to the point where physically I just couldn't do anything other than sleep and drink water and just like eat. And it allowed me to finally just say, okay, God, I'm exhausted. I get it. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Anyone? Adam Lambert? No. So you got to be determined. If you're not determined, take it off your list. I'm not saying that to invite you to quit, but you have to be willing to work for the shit that you want in all aspects and areas. If you want authenticity, it's probably because you avoid difficult conversations or there's people in your life who lack boundaries. If you want financial security, you have to be willing to do what it takes to create financial security. That might be budgeting. That might be cutting down on expenses. That might be not getting all the fancy things that you want for a year. That might mean selling your vehicle and buying one outright. That might mean selling your house, moving into something smaller. That might mean putting aside a few $100s a month into an investment account. That might mean building or starting a side hustle. That might mean finally hiring somebody to support you in the accountability of that, right? I'll go through a couple examples. If your goals is health this year, that might require you to really look at your nutrition, hire someone to support you. That might look like a gym membership that you actually go to. That might be maybe you join TLE, the Ladies Edge, 23-minute HIIT workouts from your home. Like that's why I joined it, is because I'm not going to want to go to the gym, especially in these first 6 months before or after work. I'm going to want to come home and I'm going to be coaching in the mornings and the evenings. And so doing that is going to require me to need to have that space and time. So the Ladies Edge workouts is an absolute perfect fit, right? So it's creating plans and molding experiences or molding habits around where you're wanting to go. And it's going to be really hard for me. This morning I woke up very motivated to do my workouts, and I get downstairs, and because my pelvic floor is so trashed, I'm like, okay, I'm not going into this trying to destroy it even more. I'm going to go into this intentionally. And so the first exercise that I did this morning was literally sitting on a bench, breathing exercises, and some minimal pelvic floor and core work. And it was 15 minutes. And afterwards I was like, man, like I really feel like I didn't do anything. But I also had to remind myself that getting back into lifting weights and doing all the high intensity stuff that I do intend to do is going to require me to go through this process. Slow and steady sometimes does win the race, but I have to be willing to work at it to get to where I want to be. So beautiful thing about the Ladies Edge program is they have a pregnancy program. So for postpartum, I'm going through the pregnancy program, and it is helping me already immensely after day one. Like just even learning about my breathing. Did you know that it's actually normal to breathe through your belly? It is not normal to breathe through your chest. So you can figure out if you're a belly or a chest breather by taking a nice big deep breath in. And if your chest raises, it's actually because of stress. And if your belly raises or expands, I guess, that's your properly breathing. So like you just learned so much. Okay, so I'm going to end this episode off here. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to have some really incredible guests popping in to talk about just following your intuition. I have an incredible guest that's going to come in. His name is Matthew Allen. He is the content king. Literally, highly recommend you go check him out. And he talks about his journey of just surrendering to his intuition essentially and biking across America. And it's such a fascinating interview. And I'm going to put this in here versus in our episode because when God told me to see, to observe, when I saw my mind's eye and I was like, okay, what do I need to see? And he's telling his story of all these ways that God literally redirected him through life to more joy, to happiness, to perseverance, to challenge, to getting him to where he is today. I even say in the episode, I'm like, I really encourage you, like I would implore you to really look into your relationship with God because he's literally there in the fabric of everything you're saying. And it's just, it's so fascinating. So we have Matthew Allen, we have Wendy Verde. She's coming in. She's going to be talking about all things financial freedom. We have Krista Briza, one of my past students, an incredible mama. She's going to be talking about her journey. She is an inner child healer as well, a transformational coach. I have an incredible guest. Her name is Rylee June. Believe it or not, so crazy. I'm going to save it for our episode, but I found another Rylee June online. She found Christ through miscarriages and she writes a blog. And so she's going to come on. It's going to be so weird. The world is so weird. So she's going to be a guest as well. And we have some other really cool guests coming up too. As well, going into the new year. So here's what you can expect. So I'll end this episode off like this. Here's what you can expect from me and ways that you can work with me or be a part of all the things that I have to offer you this year. If you are seeking self-development, life transformational work, personal success, and life coaching, it is going to be in a one-on-one container, either with myself for 4 or 8 months or with myself and Dr. Jacques Moser for 8 months. That is going to be the only way you can work with me. I'm not going to be doing single sessions anymore. I'm not going to do anything shorter term than 4 months. And if you are looking for something that's more of a do-it-yourself, the Intuition Immersion program is always going to be open, which I highly encourage everyone to go through. It is a really great foundational program. It teaches you all things self-awareness, intuition development, emotional understanding, behavioral support, habit building. Like, it's just so good. I am obsessed with that program. I really am so enthralled to have so many people into it. There is over 50 women enrolled into it right now that have had really great success around just awareness of their life, their past, healing, so many incredible things. Weird. Okay, I got this notification and we got the weirdest stuff that pops up sometimes. So that's going to be self-work. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur, look out for the Align and Ascend Mastermind that is going to open again. I am also going to be taking on one-on-one clients for spiritual entrepreneurship and development. It is going to be both a blend of personal work as well as building your business and training you properly in cognitive, behavioral, habitual, emotional, and spiritual support so that you can turn around and transform other people's lives in that manner. Whether you are a life coach, whether you're a practitioner, whether you are like literally anything that has to do with energy, quantum healer. Like, my intention is really to just get rid of the word salad and to help you to properly train and teach people. Like, even with a Healy device, I have one here and it's freaking the coolest thing ever. But that doesn't solve your client's problems because now they have to either go and buy their own device or they have to rely on you to give them knowledge, and that doesn't actually help them in their future. So, that's what we're going to be doing. So what you can expect is one-on-one coaching, Align and Ascend Mastermind. Those are going to be the 2 ways that I serve. And honestly, the free Divine Expander Facebook community. I'm going to be in there a few times a week doing lives based around different concepts. Every month is going to have a theme. You're going to hear about the theme at the beginning of the month. It's going to be pinned to the top of the group. And then a few times a week, I'm going to pop in and I'm going to just drop some lives in there. I'm going to be starting a 30 days of calibration, not recalibrating, because you are not recalibrating to anything. You are calibrating to the next level version of you. We're going to be doing a 30-day thing. So by the time this drops, there's going to be a link in the show notes for you to register. it is $15 to join. And the reason that it's anything, I was going to do it for free, but the amount of times people show up for things for free is very minimal. So this puts some skin in the game, which is, again, are you actually willing to work for it? So it's wildly affordable, and it's 30 days to help you to build habits, to go deeper within your mindset and your awareness surrounding your goals and what's standing in your way. And we're going to do a scripture a day. So it's going to be at 7 a.m. So all of you who want to set that New Year goal for getting up early, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is 6 a.m. PST, and well, it's 9 EST. So hopefully my ESTers, you get up a little earlier. But we're going to be doing a scripture a day to just really motivate you in deepening and strengthening that connection with God through his word. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm really excited about this. The Unleashed You 2023 program is officially closed for enrollment. So I'm going to be kicking that off with the women who have signed up already. But this is the next thing that you can do that is going to be very, very helpful in, again, building those habits, keep creating consistency, really looking underneath the surface of what's stopping in your life, and then really deepening that strength with your faith. So I love you guys. We have lots of changes coming up. I'm going to do it in another episode, talk about it in another episode, because we have already gone on for quite some time now. And if you made it this far, thank you again. I love, love, love you and love all of your support. And I'd love to hear from you. So if there's something that you're working on this year, come and drop into my DMs. Let me know. If I can support you through it, I absolutely will. If there's something that you need from me, consistency, anything truly, maybe even a connection to somebody else who can help you, come and say hi. Let me know what you're working on this year. I'm going to help hold you accountable, and we're going to do some great work this year, you guys. I'm really, really excited about this journey. It's going to be a good one. All right. I love you. I will see you in the new year. Happy New Year, everyone.